Unspoken Issues.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Unspoken Issues. I am Jesse Starcher here with my good buddy Chris Armstrong. Ready to talk some 90s comics tonight, Chris?
Always ready for 90s comics.
I love to hear that. Love to hear it. So, well, we had a poll. This was kind of an idea that you had for a while. So I'll let you kind of throw that out there, on the Unspoken Issues Facebook page. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to plug it at the end, but, we put a poll out there. People get to pick which issue that we are going to discuss on this podcast, and we'll throw up our picks. We'll throw up each other's picks. We'll throw up picks from the people that listen to the show. So you never know what you're going to get. But Chris had an idea for this poll, and I'll let him explain it. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, for a while I've thought about doing a sort of like a loser's bracket style poll with we take some books that we've done in polls in the past and give them another shot against each other. Thunderstrike was the loser of the very first Unspoken Issues poll against, I believe, Prototype #1. I think that was a fairly close one. So that was, I've wanted to get him back in the rotation there for a while. This cover alone is like a kind of a classic 90s cover.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, I wanted to use that as one of the losers, and then I'll let you pick the second of the losers bracket.
What if Volume 2, number 49, The Silver Surfer, had possessed the Infinity Gauntlet? Thunderstrike won fairly handily here. We had a total of 21 votes. 13 went to Thunderstrike. What if Volume 2, number 49, got 8 votes? So Thunderstrike is what we are jumping into tonight. So I guess I'll ask you first. Thunderstrike, was that something that you bought? Was this in the Gap, or was this something you got off the shelf?
Now, this was, I was there for Thunderstrike #1. At least bought the first couple of issues. I don't know that I kept up with it very well. This would have been 93. I didn't get out of comics for that little gap there until early 94, spring of 94. I think probably what happened is I got, the closest comic shops were a good drive away from where I lived. So if I couldn't convince my parents to take me, I had to depend on a Huck's convenience store that was right next to our house, basically.
Wow.
Short walk from our house. So I'll bet Thunderstrike stopped getting carried there, and that's why I didn't continue the journey too far into it. But yeah, I always liked the first few issues, yeah.
The only storyline that I can recall reading with Eric Masterson in it that I remembered off the top of my head was the Infinity Gauntlet. Mm-hmm. And he gets involved, but
he's part of the big fight, the big brawl issue where all the heroes are fighting Thanos.
That's where I learned that he wasn't Thor. I was like, man, Thor looks awesome. And it turns out it's not Thor.
Right. Yeah, he mentions in his little, forgive me, I've read Infinity Gauntlet #4 about 8,000 times. So he mentions in his inner monologue about how he's going to turn back into Eric Masterson without his hammer, after 60 seconds or so.
That's right. Yeah, because the hammer gets teleported away.
Right.
And he's like, oh, crap, what am I going to do now? I want to make sure I explain to people what Thunderstrike is. And obviously, it sounds like it has something to do with electricity and lightning and stuff like that. And yes, the allusions to Thor are there. What this is Thor had left to go to Asgard, I believe. You probably read up a little bit on this as well, but I want to kind of...
Yeah, I was kind of confused by the Wikipedia explanation of all the comings and goings of Eric Masterson into the Thor mantle and all that stuff.
Yeah, I summed it up like this. Thor and Eric Masterson have a bit of a history together. Mm-hmm. Thor was assisted by Eric. I think there was at some point where they were joined together and some point where they were separated. But after all that was said and done, Thor was grateful for the fact that Eric had helped him and bestowed upon him a gift of a mace, described as a mace, if I remember correctly. It's called Thunderstrike. It has a little bit of an insignia on it.
So it just says the world still needs heroes, and it's got the word Thunderstrike written on it.
That's right. Going into this comic, before Thunderstrike, the character Thunderstrike becomes Thunderstrike, his weapon is called Thunderstrike. So it's like Mjolnir, or however you want to pronounce it. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. This is Eric Masterson's mace, Thunderstrike. Thor gave it to him and said, hey, I got to head off to Asgard. Do me a favor. I need you to watch over Earth for me. Here's this. The mace can turn into a staff. And it reminds me of like the Thor of old. Granted, I haven't read much of that, but if I remember correctly, like
Yeah, the original, like Kirby and Lee Thor, I believe his alter ego was Donald Blake. He was a doctor. He used a cane, so he would strike the cane on the ground, and it would turn into the Thor, and it would turn into the hammer, and it would transform him into Thor.
Okay,
I think that's
very similar here, where Eric Masterson is not walking around like his superhero self the whole time. He is he transforms into his superhero self by tapping the staff he was given, which turns into the mace, Thunderstrike. Yeah. So that's kind of a bit of a history that we were able to cobble together. Granted, Eric Masterson's not been around a whole long time. I think his first appearance was like in the late 80s.
I checked on that to make sure, but yeah, his first appearance was in 88, and it was Thor 391. And then I believe what happened is he and Thor became merged in issue 408, and then in issue 432, he became Thor.
He took the place.
I guess Thor left, and it was just Eric Masterson was Thor.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that he was the Thor in the Thor comic.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and he had the helmet with like the little eye shield thing that comes down. I guess that's kind of how he differentiates himself from the standard Thor. Maybe.
Yeah, and it kind of makes it easier. I mean, if he was trying to, now he doesn't do that in this book, but previous to this, if he was trying to act like Thor or make people believe he was Thor, that was the way to do it. He had a bit of a mask so people couldn't recognize him, but he had the wings on the side of his helmet and, the long flowing blonde hair. It's got to be Thor, right? He's just got a beard. But that's not the case. According to the wiki created by Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz. So those two names are attached to the book, obviously.
Yeah, they were the team on Thor, I think, for several years when they introduced the character in their run, and then they spun him off into this book after, I guess, they brought the real Thor back or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So written by Tom DeFalco, penciled by Ron Frenz, inked by Al Milgram, lettered by Rick Parker, and colored by Michael Rockwitz. Now, Thunderstrike #1 hits the shelves August 3rd, 1993. And yes, do your best to tell us what that glorious cover looks like.
Oh, when somebody says Marvel 90s gimmick covers, this might be the first one that pops to mind. And it's fairly simple, compared to a lot of other gimmick covers, but forgive the pun, but it's such a striking image it's got like these thunderbolts, in the background, and with like this kind of a sparkly foil look going to him, and then it's just an image of Thunderstrike kind of jumping towards the reader, with his mace in his hand, his ponytail flapping in the wind.
Yeah.
It's got like a little blurb in the box, the corner box, that says first explosive issue, and it's even got the explosive is like breaking apart at the end to
awesome.
To really sell the sound effect there, the description. And I really like the Thunderstrike logo. Even it's got the thunder in sort of the Thor style of that logo, and then strike is written out in like more of a loose hand drawn style. I mean, it's just 90s as hell. Also, Thunderstrike has an earring that's a lightning bolt. So
now that's nice, because that actually comes up in the book where he goes to somebody that looks for some help in regards to changing his costume. She specifically mentioned that the right man with an earring is sexy as hell. It's funny because then, like within a panel or so after that, when he first appears, I'm looking for the earring, right. And I didn't see it. If I remember right, I don't think I saw it on there, but I'm glad it's on the cover. So
yeah, I don't know if he has it in the. I didn't even think about that.
Because right when first time you see him after talking to her, I think it's like he's heading after our main villain, Blood Axe. But I haven't. As we're talking, I'm going to peruse through and just see if we can find the panels.
I'm looking now. He does have it, but it's miscolored, so it looks like it's part of his jacket.
Oh, okay. All right.
The colorist did not color it yellow, so it looks like it kind of blends in with his vest.
What ear are we?
It'd be the left ear.
Left ear. Okay. Left. Well, there you go. So that's our fashion talk.
Speaking of the earring, I actually picked up a Thunderstrike action figure from my local comic shop recently, and it does not have an earring.
Oh,
so
we need to have
designers. It's also missing the glove that he's got on his left hand that has like just two fingers covered, and the other fingers are exposed. One of those weird gloves.
I'm wondering if there is who knows? I mean, some of this stuff is just, we know it's 90s. We know they throw stuff on people just so it looks good. But
yeah,
you never know. There might be somebody out there that's like, hey, listen, I use a mace for a living. And let me tell you about that glove.
Could be.
But that synopsis is right around the corner, but let me first talk about Amazon Music. You're going to find it difficult to find Blood Axe's mid-90s metal hit, Bloody Blast Beats, but you will be able to find AC/DC's 1990 album, The Razor's Edge, featuring Got You by the Balls, Money Talks, and of course, that great opener, Thunderstruck. If you head to getamazonmusic.com/W2M network, you can get a free 30-day trial where you can check out over 70 million songs. That's getamazonmusic.com/W2M network for that free 30-day trial. Just wanted to break in here real quick and give you all a bit of a spoiler warning. When Chris and I get into the discussion, some of the mysteries surrounding characters in the book will get revealed, so be prepared. We open with a carjacking that gets foiled by the helmeted Eric Masterson wielding a mace called Thunderstrike, whom everyone believes is Thor. Making quick work of the carjackers, Eric is able to thwart their plans until the police arrive arresting the criminals. Eric leaves the scene in a hurry to meet up with his lawyer friend Samantha Joyce. On the way there, he reminisces on how he came to be where he is right now. Having a history of helping Thor out a few times, Thor gave Eric a mace that disguises itself as a simple walking stick, also depowering him. Thor charged Eric as being his successor, as Thor had to leave for Asgard. Since then, he has been keeping a secret identity and fighting crime. Meanwhile, Eric's fitness model ex-wife, Marcy, who is now married a football player by the name of Bobby Steele, is busy filming for her next infomercial. When Bobby leaves the event early, he is viciously attacked by a carjacker and loses his vehicle. Arriving at home, Eric learns the events of what happened to Bobby Steele from his son, Kevin, and says that he might have Thor look into things. Recovering in a hospital, Bobby learns that some carjackers were caught by the police today, obviously the encounter that Thunderstrike had at the beginning of the book. And away from the others, reaching into his bag, Bobby brings out a large axe, becoming Blood Axe, and heads for the jail to exact vengeance. We interrupt this synopsis to let you know that I'm wrong. Yes, when I wrote this down, I assumed that this character, Bobby Steele, was Blood Axe. Get ready, because I'm about to learn otherwise. Killing one of the carjackers, he extracts info from the others to find where the rest of them are, and that the man who is leading them is a villain called Carjack. Dramatic pause and everything. Blood Axe arrives at the chop shop, but his plans are stymied when Eric arrives, giving the carjackers and their leader the time to leave. During the battle, it is clear that Eric is no match for Blood Axe and is about to kill Eric when a large beam hits Blood Axe, sending him backward. As the police arrive, Blood Axe decides to part, leaving a beaten Eric Masterson thankful that he survived, but confused as to who saved him. Eric then decides he needs to get a new costume, as he's a little bit tired of everyone confusing him with Thor. So after hearing on the news that Carjack had been released after being arrested shortly after his fight with Blood Axe, Eric reaches out to his ex-wife to let Bobby know he may want to watch out. Unfortunately, when Bobby heard the news, he left immediately and Marcy can't find him. As Carjack celebrates his release, Blood Axe arrives, intent on killing him. However, Eric shows up again to stop him. Sporting a new look and more confidence, Eric brings the fight to Blood Axe. But when Carjack opens fire, Blood Axe reverses the direction of the bullets, killing nearly everyone that pulled the trigger. Enraged, Eric begins to beat on Blood Axe, disarming him and then hitting him with a beam from his mace, sending Blood Axe away from the chop shop as it collapses to the ground. When rescue workers arrive, a pile of rubble begins to shake, and out from under comes Eric with his mace and the axe of Blood Axe. When a rescue worker calls Eric Thor, he corrects him and quickly says his name is Thunderstrike. Now, Eric has to figure out what his next step will be. Oh yeah, next issue, the Juggernaut comes a-calling. Wow, it goes from bad to worse for this guy. And I love that last page where it's Juggernaut with the smile, like the evil smile, and the reflection of Eric with the mace in one hand and axe in the other, and he's ready to go.
I believe that's the cover to issue 2 or similar to that.
Yeah, you're right. I'm looking at the issue right now. Nothing can stop the Juggernaut. Don't bet on it. All right, man. So that's our issue here. I mean, we get our introduction to Eric Masterson. I mean, if you're just brand new, you pulled this comic off the shelf because it looks cool, and you're like, man, look at this character. Man, what's Thor doing with a ponytail and all this? And we get to learn about Eric and Thunderstrike. We also get to learn about Blood Axe, who I never did look this up. I think he's been around prior to this.
Yeah, he appeared a few times in the Thor book as well before this. And I was going to give you, we can leave it in or we can edit it out.
I need to take it out because I'm looking it over right now. I thought it was.
Because I remember when I was a kid reading this, I was like, well, it's obviously that guy. You know, obviously her husband is Blood Axe.
Okay.
And that was like a red herring.
I wasn't confused then. So
yeah, because they're clearly trying to point him as like the prime suspect, because I guess it had never been revealed in the past who Blood Axe was. And they were kind of building him up, I guess, in this book. But yeah, eventually he's revealed to be a different character.
So yeah, I just went to the page, and ladies and gentlemen, okay, I'm leaving it in, but I'm going to obviously be talking to people right now and saying, "Boy, was I wrong." And that's just one of those times that comics got me. Yeah, looking at the wiki here, Blood Axe is a guy by the name of Jackie Lucas, which that is a relation to who is that? Because I know that name.
She's in this issue. It's the woman who wants Eric to move in with her.
No. I thought, holy crap, dude. I thought it was a guy. Wow, dude. That's awesome. Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah, actually, not too long ago, maybe less than 6 months ago, I grabbed a bunch of Thunderstrike issues out of a dollar box and decided to try and read through the run. But I still don't have them all. But yeah, I knew that somehow over the years, I've figured out that Blood Axe was somebody else besides her ex-husband, which is what I'd always kind of assumed since I was a kid, because I never finished the series. Yeah. And as I was going to reread these issues, I was like, I'm going to try to avoid finding out who that really was, just so to save it as a surprise when I get to the reveal in my reread or whatever. Mm-hmm. But when I was doing like the looking up stuff for this podcast, it was hard to avoid, so I figured it out then.
It's so funny because I of all the characters I looked at, I never even brought up Blood Axe to look at, and that would have completely ruined what the surprise I just had.
Yeah, it's there on the Wikipedia page.
There it is.
Alter ego.
It's 2 words right after the first one. So yeah, Blood Axe did appear in the Blood Axe, the character, we'll just say Blood Axe, showed up in 1992, July of 1992. So about a year before this. What did we say? It was August. Yes, it was about a year before this in Thor volume 449. So Blood Axe has been around at this point. Clearly, we didn't know who the alter ego was. I assume it wasn't given away prior to this first issue. But yeah, I was completely snowballed on that. I had no idea. I was like, well, this is easy. It's the husband. and it's so funny. This is one of my talking points, but I'm getting it out of the way right now because it completely relates to it. When that sleazeball looking new boyfriend, husband, whatever, Bobby Steele showed up, like football player, and I'm like, this guy, look at the mustache, curly black hair. Oh, I'm gonna hate this dude.
Yeah, I know from reading the next few issues that he even with him not being Blood Axe, there's plenty of reason to hate that guy.
Okay, well, the thing is that I did a complete 180 because I love the Blood Axe character so much. I was like, holy crap, this guy is awesome.
I think I'd be a fan of this mulleted, mustachioed football player.
I don't want to do this, but I mean, I look at the skull kneecaps. Look at the freaking armor this dude's got on. When we're talking about Blood Axe, just imagine like a Punisher mindset in somebody who can battle Thor. That's kind of exactly what this is. You can't believe these people are preying on the dregs of society. He's going to use his axe to take out anybody who seems to be an evildoer without restraint. He's going to take them out. No quarter given. So yeah, dude, when I'm thinking, this schmarmy freaking curly haired Bobby Steele as Blood Axe. Well, I guess I'm going to give him some leeway because, man, his alter ego is pretty awesome. But wow, already I've only read one issue, and I'm like, I can't believe some of the twists and turns that occur later on. So that's good stuff. It already had me. But anyway, okay. So let me step back. Aside from the Blood Axe revelation that I just experienced, what'd you think, man? What's your thoughts here?
This is a really good first issue, I think, and I think it shows that DeFalco and Ron Frenz they were vets by this point. I think they had been doing comics for a long time.
I like Frenz's artwork. I've
done a lot of Spider-Man stuff in like the 80s. There's a lot of big splash pages in this issue and stuff like that, but it still has kind of the feel, as far as the panel layouts and everything, of more of like a 70s, 80s style Marvel comic.
I agree. Square in the 90s, we do have some big bombastic battles, some really crazy looking villains, but you're very much wrapped up in the life of Eric Masterson and what he's trying to do. I mean,
if you look at like pages 4 and 5 specifically, like there is so much text from like description boxes to inner monologue to word balloons. Like there's just a ton of text, and it isn't. I mean, I actually timed myself because I had read this, like I said, like less than 6 months ago. So when I read it today, I timed myself, and it took me 28 minutes and 42 seconds. That's quite a haul for a 90s comic.
It is really.
It's like a double-sized issue or whatever, but like it's really dense.
When I sit down in front of a comic and I see that much text, I immediately go, oh man, here we go.
It's daunting.
Yeah, it's like, but the thing is that when I read this, and I'm, this is not hyperbole or whatever you want to call it. When I started reading this, I got through it and I didn't recognize it being overly long, in my opinion. Yeah. For me, it seemed to go smooth because everything that was said mattered. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times when you get that really overwrought, so much dense dialogue, especially for like a 70s comic, that's a good representation of 70s.
It can be a burden.
Yeah, and you're just like, you don't need to say this. Let your art say it. Sure. But this right here, I didn't get that.
It's a #1 issue. It's a new character, quote unquote new character. But it's also like you've got to catch the readers up on Masterson and kind of his history with Thor, all these new characters that I'm assuming had already appeared in the Thor run. Like, so you're kind of playing catch up to a lot of new readers who see the shiny new #1 and the new character, and they're hopping in to this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ground to cover to get up to the reveal of Thunderstrike later in the issue. A lot of this, it seemed like DeFalco, which I think Frenz was also like the co-plotter. So both of them, I think they were really wanting to make this like the real world, like a street level hero, even though he's a little more powerful than like a Spider-Man or whatever. They established later, about midway through the issue in his first fight with Blood Axe, that he's not as strong as Thor. He doesn't have the power level that Thor had.
Right at the front of this issue, it's a carjacking, and a guy that looks like Thor just shows up to stop a carjacking, and you're like, whoa, wait a second here. Yeah, this is absolutely street level. That was the first thing that I thought when I saw it. I was like, why is he here? Why is he doing this on the street? But just like you said, he's pretty powerful, but he's not as powerful as Thor.
Right. And he smashes this woman's car who's being carjacked because the guy's trying to run her over, him and her over. And, he has that little inner monologue of like, hey, what do we do about her car? Like, will the insurance, will the Avengers insurance cover her? Should I get my own insurance? I don't understand. Like, there's a lot of like real world stuff that like just an everyman like doesn't really know how to handle this kind of stuff. Like
exactly
what to do in these kind of extreme situations and stuff.
If they would have left that as him smashing the car and like, here you go, here's the cops, and then he just left, I'm like, oh, that's something that you wouldn't have seen in comic books prior to this. They would have left that alone. They would have just said, save the damsel and I'm out.
I'm sure that's the first time, I was 13 when this came out. I'm sure that was the first time I'd ever considered anything like that.
But a lot of this issue deals with Eric Masterson trying to kind of find his place in the world. Everybody's thinking he's Thor. He knows, and he gets that across a lot. That is put through the book plenty that he's not as powerful as Thor. You also, Eric Masterson as a person, he's going through some personal struggles. I mean, he says he's living at the Avengers Mansion, but it's out there that he may possibly be homeless.
Right.
Because he's talking
about now that Thor's back and he's not Thor anymore. Like that's not going to be an option for him anymore.
He's trying to find a place to live. He's got this secret identity. He's trying to, obviously, a dual identity that he's got to keep from the people that he loves. The other thing that's kind of very real world on top of this is the fact that he's divorced. I don't know off the top of my head. You could probably name a few. What other superheroes do you know that are go through that?
I mean, I guess Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne maybe that had happened at this point, but that's something I was not familiar with, you know.
Yeah, you didn't see that very much in the 90s comic. It was a very 90s thing. I mean, my parents got divorced in the 80s, so seeing that on a comic book page, it's not like I'm yelling, hey, represent or anything like that, but I mean, that's something that really happens. But yeah, Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne would be the first people that I think of who had a relationship or not in a relationship, and you got the whole abuse line. So that's a prime example of real world stuff right there. It's good that they added that element in here. So Eric Masterson, he's going through it, man. Divorced guy, almost homeless, trying to figure out, one of the hardest things in this whole issue is him just coming up with a name. He's trying to come up with a name for his identity as Thunderstrike. I don't think he was very confident at the end when he finally picked it. He was like, and he just looked at his mace or something and went, Thunderstrike?
I think he even says that it's stupid.
Yeah, well, so, okay, shadowy figure that's watching Eric. Now, this does not get disclosed in this issue, but there is this shadowy figure that kind of keeps an eye on Eric Masterson. So I assume this person knows that Eric Masterson is Thunderstrike or has a secret identity, maybe.
Right, yeah.
But we don't get to see who that is. You've read ahead. Do you know who this is?
Yeah, but I don't think that character has been revealed up to where I'm at, so...
Okay, all right. Well, then we're just going to leave a mystery for the listeners.
There you go.
I guess I'm going to lay my money 70% that was the person that saved him from getting killed by Blood Axe, or at least really messed up. This brings me to my favorite part of this book. All right. And that is Blood Axe.
We get a good look at him. The first great look at his costume is, I guess, on page 22.
Yeah.
So, yeah, describe Blood Axe for us.
Okay. All right. I think the hardest part
90s as hell.
Oh, dude. I mean, okay. So imagine the Red Skull, but put on about, 70 pounds of muscle. Okay. Give him a black leather jacket, some, I don't know what you call these, metal armbands. All right. Mm-hmm. Get you one of them bracelets that got the spikes on them. Okay. All right. But don't put the spike bracelet on your wrist. You put it on your foot.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Now, my favorite addition to this costume that sets this thing all off. I was talking about the Red Skull. So your primary colors are going to be black and red. Red Skull, black jacket, black pants, red bracelet, Red Skull knee pads. All right. That's where it's at right there. And yes, this is 90s is all hell. But I mean, the Red Skull, okay, this isn't like a skull. Imagine a metallic skull. Okay,
yeah, it's not like a helmet almost. Seems like. I
can tell you the facial features definitely look like actual bone, but the helmet definitely it's shiny and looks metal. Now,
don't forget the shoulder pad.
The shoulder pad. That's right. Now, so
only one.
One shoulder pad. Okay, Legion of Doom, straight from WCW. It was the Road Warriors from WCW. Okay, so I got that backwards. Legion of Doom from WWE or the Road Warriors who put these massive shoulder pads on. Well, take one of those shoulder pads off with the spikes.
I like to think Friends was doing the sketch of Blood Axe, and DeFalco was looking at and he had two shoulder pads with the big spikes, and he was like, "Too much, man. Just get rid of one of the shoulder pads."
So obviously, it's in the name. His weapon of choice, their weapon of choice, because obviously I've got my pronouns mixed up. Their weapon of choice, is axe with a chain on the back on the bottom of it. So I'm looking at the first appearance here in this, or the first page that we see Blood Axe. Any idea like where the chain goes?
I don't know. There's only one little link like left on there. I know that the axe comes from the Executioner, which is another Asgardian.
Scourge the Executioner. So I don't know what picture you're looking at, but I know you're looking at the one. I assume you're looking at the one where he busts through the chop shop.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you turn your page, like if you go back like a couple pages, right where he comes out, and he's got.
Oh yeah, I see it now.
So that chain goes somewhere like to his back or something, but I assume you can just. It's so he doesn't lose it. But guess what? That don't work. he probably disconnected it there. Yeah. But anyway, dude, chains, axes, skulls, spikes. Okay. Every checkbox right there.
Yep. Checking every box.
I love it. But yeah, man, absolutely 100% Doug. The first time I've ever seen this character. I'm turning a page and I'm like, whoa, look at that dude. That is awesome. So I was excited. Very cool looking villain. If he's been around since the Thor days, I think we said it was like, it was 92. So his first appearance ever as Blood Axe was 92. So he's a 90s character for sure. And I hope he's looked like this the whole time. And now I'm like really wanting to find out whatever happened to Blood Axe.
Now, I know Blood Axe comes back frequently, I think, in the Thunderstrike series.
Very good.
Blood Axe is not the only villain in this issue. What do you think about Carjack?
Carjack. Okay, when we first see Carjack, imagine a trench coat wearing, purple panted, red booted, yellow shirt, but mainly a Doctor Doom mask with that looks, it's a little bit more modified. The hair, short dreadlocks. You probably are making an assumption as to the race of the character underneath the mask and the outfit, because every part of this person's body is covered with some type of clothing.
And he's fairly like a big, imposing looking character. Yeah,
he's a stout dude. But, I mean, he grabs one of the guys, one of his thugs that's going around. I mean, there's this city, which I assume is New York. I didn't check to see if they said that. But I mean, they're besieged. May have made it sound too light earlier about people are getting carjacked and Thor showing up. People are getting hurt. I mean, we watched Bobby who gets nailed from. They said that they capped Bobby Steele. I was like, Bobby's dead? I guess dude just showed up. I hated him and now he's dead. But he actually just got hit in the head and he was bleeding. He needed stitches. So Carjack's a pretty big dude. He's able to grab one of his thugs from behind, hold him up with one arm. So he's pretty stout. But you soon find out as the story goes on, when the big battle happens there at the chop shop, if I remember right, maybe it was the first one, I think, when Blood Axe first showed up. Mm-hmm. In order to get away, Carjack takes his mask off, and it's a white guy underneath who just takes off running, and he still gets arrested, but, you know, they can't pin anything on him. But, I'm burying the lead here. This guy, all right, runs a chop shop full of thugs, full of carjackers, and yes, his name that he chose as a villain is Carjack. And I was like, well, I mean, if you're going to do something, do it well.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Who's this guy that's been running around jacking cars? Who's the guy behind it all? Well, sir, that's Carjack. Oh, okay. Oh, well.
It's weird that, like, he seems almost like he's running a cult or something. You know, once they get sprung, you know, due to lack of evidence or whatever, and they're back on the streets, they're having like a big party, and he basically says, tomorrow we'll turn the streets red with blood. Yeah. And then, you know, Blood Axe shows back up again to thwart him. But like, yeah, he's there are a few moments in here where it just seems like he is as interested in bloodshed as he is in like money.
Jacking cars. It's like, dude, okay, I don't know about cornering the most evil chop shop villain in the world, but I'd say he probably did it. I'm assuming that there's no other person that's as evil as him that also jacks cars. And it's funny though, because he gets upset when blood gets on the car because that hurts the resale value. I mean, we learned that you don't want to get blood on the entire interior of the car.
I checked 2 appearances.
2 appearances
for Carjack.
Well, we read one. I'm curious.
The other one, he dies.
Yeah, issue 2. Well, so there you go, Carjack.
We hardly knew ye.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The other couple notes I had here was just as the comic goes along, Eric figuring out his powers was pretty cool. You know, he doesn't know specifically what all this mace can do.
Yeah, he didn't get an instruction manual with it.
No, he didn't. He's going along. He's trying to figure out how it works, and it's the one thing that saves his butt at the end when he's in his second confrontation with Bloodaxe, where Bloodaxe is about to come at him again, and he, of course, this time, you know, Eric's got his gumption up, and he ends up waylaying him with some kind of blast from the mace, and that pretty much, he had no idea that was going to happen. It was like, wow, right. You know, I'm figuring this. So that's pretty neat. You know, we're kind of like, that's a good way for the writer to get us along on the ride with Eric as he's learning about his new world and his new circumstances. But yeah, the last note I had here was just about how Eric lands on his name, and we kind of already covered that. You know, it's at the very end, he's not exactly too confident about it, but you know, hey, it's Thunderstrike, baby. That's what I'm going to go with, and there you go. So
the only other thing I really had was Code Blue, who show up in this issue. They're kind of like an elite SWAT team, you know, that I think I'm actually going to look them up here real quick so I don't get anything wrong.
There seemed to be a history. Eric refers to him as Stone.
It looks like their first appearance was in Thor 426 in 1990. So I'm assuming he has some history with them as Thor. But yeah, they almost become like co-stars in the book for a while. And I believe in some of the later issues, like they only ran to issue 24, but I think in some of the issues in the teens, there's even like a Code Blue flip book where they have their own stories in there. So
okay.
I think I read up through issue like 7 or 8, and I know they appear a lot in those issues as almost like co-stars of the book.
Yeah, yeah, and I can tell they're
pretty diverse. Like it almost seemed like they were based on like, you know, an 80s cop show. They all kind of have their own distinct personalities, all kind of get their own moment of screen time at different points in the issues. So anyway, I like those characters. So
they show up for a quick second. I could tell there was a history behind them, but I didn't know it was becomes that extensive, which is pretty cool. Can you turn to where the page is where Code Blue, right before Eric comes out of the rubble? I think it's like the second to last page, maybe the third to last page. So in the ambulance, is that Carjack?
I don't know, because he's in like a wheelchair.
That's what I thought too. That's why in the synopsis I said, you know, there was people that were killed, but nearly everybody was killed. They specifically say within the hour, ambulances carted away the wounded, and police vans have seen to the rest. Maybe that, because that looks like Carjack.
Yeah, it looks like him, but he's got like white hair, but that could easily just be like a coloring mistake or whatever.
Yeah.
He's smoking a cigarette, which is odd.
Yeah, it's almost like Nick Fury with white hair. So that's why I assumed Carjack was coming back, because I thought they arrested it. He's not in handcuffs, so it can't be him. I would imagine they would put him in handcuffs. True. So I don't know. Interesting. But all right, well, tell me about your favorite panel. Do you got one?
It's kind of tough, because there are actually a ton of potential, you know, favorite panels in here. There's Absolutely. A lot of big splashy full page and even like double page spreads. I'm going to go small though, and I'm going to go with the second panel of page 19, which is where Bloodaxe attacks the prisoners in the jail cell, and he just like melts this guy like it's Raiders of the Lost Ark until he's just a skeleton.
He can't even finish his sentence. He's like, hey, there's a guy running toward the window. That guy gets obliterated. That's
which
fantastic.
Is the most violent thing that happened in this book by a wide margin.
But easily for me is the previous page, and that's
that first appearance.
Yeah, when I first saw Bloodaxe. For me, when it comes to a panel, page, whatever, I got to take into account two things: moments, and I got to take into what it looks like. And this did both of those for me, because this is one of those things where I saw this and was like, holy crap, you know, this will be the panel that I choose.
It's a good one.
Yeah, man. It's a sweet looking character.
I was going to say, I'm kind of looking through here. There are the second and third pages is like a splash page, but a sideways of like Eric in the Thor costume, basically standing on the car. And then there's another sideways full page splash of him like tackling Bloodaxe There's a big 2-page splash of him disarming Blood Axe. Late in the issue, there's a big 1-page of the first appearance of Thunderstrike when you first see him in his new costume. So yeah, a ton of those like big moments in this book.
My hat's off to Ron Friends here because I mean, I don't know how you feel about it. I've heard other people like say they dislike it, but okay, if you go through the panel layout, page layout, a lot of people that I've heard discuss comics and the layout of comics do not like things that bleed into other panels.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it. He does a lot of that in these pages.
Yeah, dude, if you look at, I'm looking at Carjack holding up the Thug. The Thug is being held up, breaking the panel and going into the panel above, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. I like it because it's unconventional, but that's one thing that really sets this issue apart for me is the fact that, just like you said, we get landscape layouts and some of this stuff. We get 2-page. They're doing everything all over the place. Blood Axe bursts into the chop shop and he's standing there and his shoulders and head are in the panel above him. And it's a good use of space, in my opinion, too, because a lot of times in the panels that you have, there's negative space. So there's stuff that's not being used. So it's cool to actually see it being used. But I just wanted to see where you stood on that. I'm a fan of it. So it sounds like
I like it. What's becoming almost a regular plug for Observations,
yeah.
for Rob Liefeld podcast. I've heard him talk on there about in his early days where editors were really on him and some of the other young artists at the time to like not break panel borders and stuff like that, like to keep it traditional and kind of restricting their creativity and stuff like that. And
so I think that's it, man. Let's go ahead. We'll close up shop here. Was there anything else I was supposed to bring up? I could go into comments. I don't think we had too many, but let me pull
just
this up.
Evan maybe. And
oh yeah, we know Evan Bevins was going to be pulling for Thunderstrike. Yeah, he immediately put in there. He was like there's a choice. I was like, well, crap.
He had a nice pun, I believe, too.
Yeah. Oh, vested. That's what he meant by that. Yeah, vested interest. What do you think of the new costume? We talked about the earring.
A lot of people, I think, when they think 90s, Thunderstrike is one of the first things that comes to mind, and it might be the ponytail, might be the vest, like the sleeveless vest, which this is at a point where a lot of the other Avengers wore jackets for some reason. I'm not sure what the logic behind that was, really. But yeah, I dig the costume. And interestingly enough, some of the set photos from Thor Love and Thunder, you can see Thor is wearing a red vest, like a sleeveless vest, in some of those. So that's got some people speculating like maybe some references to Thunderstrike, or Eric Masterson is going to maybe be in the new Thor movie. Who knows? But I better go ahead and try and get me a first appearance of Eric Masterson now before it shoots up.
It's like everything is, man. Gosh.
Me and my buddy that works at the comic shop were talking the other day about like every week you can walk into the shop and you'll see new comics on the back wall that it's like, what the hell is that doing up there for $50? Why? Who cares about that comic? And It's because some random character is rumored to be in a new movie or whatever,
That's insane, man. All right. Well, I mean, unless there's anything else, we can close up shop. You can go ahead and do your plugs, and then I'll do mine.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at BrodyMan34.
Very good. You can follow me at Stiznarky on Twitter if you do so wish. Look, go check out the Unspoken Issues podcast Facebook page. Hey, check it out. Like I said earlier, Chris and I will throw up some choices there. Dean Compton gets in on the action. Our members of the podcast Facebook page do the same. And of course, we're all part of the Unspoken Decade, which is the most fantastic site that you can go and check out all sorts of articles for 1990s comics. The gimmick era has never been covered so well. Did someone say Unspoken Decade? The place where you need to go to check out some great articles about comics in the 90s? This would be a good time to plug a sponsor of the W2M network, and that is Grammarly. For you, the listeners of Unspoken Issues, Grammarly is offering a free download of the Grammarly software. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M network to download Grammarly for free. Shout out to the W2M network for hosting the podcast, and of course the Radulich and Broadcasting Network as well. That's Chris Armstrong over there. I'm Jesse Starcher. We will return in a couple weeks. We'll talk to you then. Have a good one. Bye-bye.